Manchester United officially announced new CEO and new CFO, two new centre-back targets ahead of the transfer window opening, and some massive injury news to bring you guys this morning. But before we jump into that, please smash a like on this morning's video, subscribe to the channel if you're new, and let's get straight on into it. Let's start the show off with some positivity, as I always try and do. Obviously, you can't always do it. I always try and do it at the beginning of the show. So let's start with that. And the positive story I've got for you guys today, this is coming out from Sky Sports. This was yesterday, is that apparently Marcus Rashford and Lisandro Martinez are back in first team training. Now that is massive, massive news, especially Martinez, because we've seen how poor our defence have been this season. We've seen how many shots we're conceding. We've seen how confused and uneasy our defence look. We've seen how deep we've had to play because effectively we've got Maguire and Casemiro as two centre-backs who can barely run. So Martinez coming back at this stage of the season is so important. Obviously the Premier League is kind of gone. You know, we're not going to get top four. It's mathematically not possible now. We are playing for sixth place, which would be Europa League football. So that still has to be the target. But the main focus amongst all of the fan base and the main focus in that team should be to go out and hopefully put in some level of performance against Man City. Do I think we'll win? Probably not. But does Lisandro Martinez being back in the first team give us a better chance? I would say so, yes. If the time comes round, May the 25th is the FA Cup final, and we've got Luke Shaw back at left back, we've got Varane and Martinez as the two centre-backs, and we've got Dalot playing at right back, that would be a massive improvement. Because the thing you have to remember is, right, as it stands at the moment, none of those players are currently playing in those positions. You've got Dalot playing at left back because effectively we don't have a left back. You've got Wan-Bissaka at right back, Casemiro as your centre back, and Maguire. So that would be four players coming back into their original positions, and it would massively improve our chances. So really, really happy. We just have to hope that Martinez injury problems are done for now, because it is starting to get a little bit worrying. I know it does happen with some players, but the fact that before he came to Manchester United, I think he'd only been injured like twice for 2 games in his whole career. Whereas since he's been at Man United, he's missed about half of the season. Well, he's missed all of this season, really, and some of last season. So it is a concern, but let's just hope and pray that it's a one-off freak accident and he'll be fine. But yeah, moving on to the story about the CEO and the CFO. So this is coming out from Manchester United officially. This is on their website, and the headline is Statement, Changes to Executive Leadership. So I'm going to read out the official statement for you. It says, Manchester United have made 2 further changes to his executive leadership. By mutual consent, Patrick Stewart, interim chief executive, and Cliff Batty, chief financial officer, have decided to leave the club at the end of the season. Okay, cool. And it says that Patrick will be replaced by Jean-Claude Blanc as the CEO. So Jean-Claude Blanc is going to be the CEO until July the 13th, at which point Omar Barada will start work. So that's really, really positive, because at least we know we have, a temporary option in place until Omar Barada comes. And we now have a confirmation that Omar Barada will start work as Man United's new CEO on July the 13th. Now, obviously the transfer window opens. Is it the 1st of July? Let's check. When does the transfer window open? I'm pretty sure it's the 1st of July, or it might be the 1st of June. 14th of June, the window opens. So we're going to have about a month without Omar Barada, and the window will be open. But the window doesn't close until the 1st of September. I know obviously we've got the Euros coming up, which I think a lot of players are going to not want to move until after the Euros is done. The Euros final is on the 14th of July. So that works out quite well, that we know that pretty much the day of the Euros final, Omar Barada will be able to start work for Man United. Now, some players might want to sort out their future before the competition, but from what I'm hearing, most players are going to wait until after the Euros to decide where they want to go to, which makes sense, because I think it is a bit of an unnecessary distraction if you're, trying to negotiate a contract with the club, or you're trying to move, or there's all this speculation. I think it's better for players to say, I'm going to focus on the Euros, and then we'll talk about my future afterwards. And people sat there at home saying, well, what does that mean about the outgoings? What does that mean? Does that mean we're not going to sell any players? A lot of the people that Manchester United, a lot of the places, a lot of the countries, that the players we have at the moment who need to leave, they're either not playing for their national team, or their teams aren't in the competition, if that makes sense. I've kind of got a bit muddled up on my words there, but I put together a really basic list here for you of players who will almost definitely leave this summer. So you've got Donny van der Beek. I don't think he's in the Dutch team, so he's obviously not going to be at the Euros. Lindelof, Sweden in the... Let's have a look. I don't know if Sweden are in the Euros. I assume they probably are. Let's have a look. Sweden's fixtures. Sweden. No, I don't think they are. So Sweden didn't qualify for the Euros either. That's interesting. So yeah, Sweden, Victor Lindelof. Pellistri, obviously plays for Uruguay. That shouldn't be a problem. Hannibal, I don't think he's in the Turkish national team. Casemiro, Eriksson, Amrabat's going. Brandon Williams is obviously contract expiring. Martial's contract's expiring. Evans, Varane, Tom Heaton, Omari Forson. Like most of the players who need to go, like immediately, their contracts are expiring or they're not even in the Euros, so it shouldn't be a problem. But we actually have some news for you on a player who has apparently will be leaving in the summer, and it has been confirmed, and that is Alvaro Fernandez, the left back who is on loan at Benfica at the moment. He's got a release clause that was part of the loan deal for around £5 million, and apparently Benfica are set to trigger that. So Benfica will buy Alvaro Fernandez off Manchester United for a fee of around £5 million, which sounds like not very much, but if he doesn't have a future at Manchester United, then obviously you need to sell him. He's 21 years of age. It's not like he's a 16-year-old. He's 3 years older than Kobe Mainoo, and he's not had a sniff in the first team. So I don't know. I know people will say, "Oh, he's so good. He should be playing." But it's the same with Ahmad. You know, there is this obsession in the fan base with Amad Diallo that, you know, he's going to come in and suddenly we're going to be winning the Champions League and the Premier League. Now, I want Amad Diallo to play, but from what I have seen of him in small glimpses, like, he's not going to take us from where we are now to winning the Premier League. And that's just being realistic. We need probably 8 players to come in and improve us to be able to win the Premier League. So Amad Diallo coming in isn't going to make a difference. And I think that Alvaro Fernandez is another example of that. There's always this obsession with what we don't know. People are sat there at home saying, why did we let Alvaro Fernandez go? You know, he could come in. He's better than Luke Shaw. He's better than Malacia. But we don't know that for sure. And we do have to trust the manager. We have to trust the coaches. And they watch him every single day in training. You know, they might say he's not physical enough for the Premier League. They might say whatever. He's not. There must be a reason. And I know people will say, oh, I don't trust Erik ten Hag. I don't trust his signings and all the rest of it. I get that. But, you know, we can't obsess too much and be like, if Alvaro Fernandez and Amad Diallo started, we'd win the Premier League, because I just don't think that's realistic. But let me know what you guys think. From that list of players I read out, how many of them do you think will leave? So this is the list I've got for you. These are the players that, if you were to ask me now to bet on it, I don't bet, but I will bet. If I was to bet, I would say that all of these players will go, right? This is my list. Get involved in the comment section. Let me know your list of who needs to go. So Donny van der Beek, Lindelof, Pellistri, Hannibal, Casemiro, Eriksson. All of those players we can sell, because they're still contracted. So that's 6 players. Then Amrabat, Brandon Williams, Martial, Johnny Evans, Varane, Tom Heaton, and Omari Forson. All of those players, their contracts are expiring or the loans are expiring. So you've got 7 players whose contracts expiring, and you've got 6 players who I think will be sold 100%. So that's 13 players in total. And that doesn't even bring into equation people like Jadon Sancho, people like Mason Greenwood, people say Maguire, McTominay. Like, none of these people are included in this list. So don't see this as a dramatic or a crazy theory. 13 players there in that list. I think everybody in the fan base would agree that those 13 players should go, right? And that's 13 players already. So we've got a massive, massive summer ahead of us. But let's talk a little bit about ingoings. So there's a story that broke this morning that apparently Manchester United are very interested in signing Antonio Silva from Benfica and Giorgio Scalvini from Atalanta. I've said to you for months and months and months and months, my number one target would be Antonio Silva. But the biggest problem I have with Antonio Silva is his release clause. The ability is clearly there. He's doing unbelievable things for his age. I think he's only 19. He's playing every single game for Benfica. He's in the Portuguese national team starting for them. He's only 19. Like, he could be our centre-back version of Kobe Mainoo. He's that level quality player. But the problem with him is the release clause. Now, some of you might say that I actually think the release clause is fair. His release clause is £85 million, which is a hell of a lot of money. But when you think we spent over £80 million on Harry Maguire, who, let's be honest, is not very good, I mean, that's a bit unfair. Harry Maguire is good if you're playing a defensive, park the bus, 5 at the back style team. I would say he's one of the best centre-backs in the world for that style play, genuinely, and I'm not even joking. If you're, sat really deep and you need somebody there who can dominate, the box, get headers and all the rest of it, Harry Maguire is a very good player at that. But for a more modern day style of football, a Pep Guardiola, a Jurgen Klopp style football or an Erik ten Hag style football where you want to sit on your halfway line, your centre-backs are literally on the halfway line the whole game. You can't do that with Maguire because one ball over the top and he can't catch up with the striker and they score. So, he's good for England because Gareth Southgate plays very pragmatic defensive football. But at club level in the Premier League, he just doesn't really seem to work. He would be good for a lower league team, somebody who's happy to sit back and hit on the counter. But for somebody who wants to be playing a more positive, further up the field approach, he just doesn't really work. But yeah, I would love to see Antonio Silva, but I just think £85 million release clause is a hell of a lot of money. Apparently Manchester United are interested in him. I don't know. The thing I guess you have to consider is it's £85 million, but you've got a centre-back for the next 10 years then. And if he is as good as what he is for Benfica, it probably is good value for money. Now, Scalvini, he's a similar age profile, also in the Italian national team, playing pretty much every single game for Atalanta this season, was part of, obviously they beat Liverpool in the Europa League. He's available for around £40 million. So he's about half the price. Still has the international pedigree, still has played the same amount of games this season. So he's probably a more realistic option. If we need 2 centre-backs, maybe you go and get Scalvini and Jean-Claire Todibo. Jared Brathwaite's the other name, but he's going to cost you 70-80 million, which I don't think he's worth personally. I would much rather Man United go and spend 85 million on Antonio Silva than them spend 80 million on Brathwaite personally. But you can let me know what you guys think about that in the comment section below. There's so many different opinions. Moving over to the manager really, really quickly. Wanted to talk a little bit about Thomas Tuchel because Fabrizio Romano has just broke the news that Ralf Rangnick is very close to becoming the new Bayern Munich manager. Now, there've been some murmurs that apparently Bayern Munich fans wanted Thomas Tuchel to stay. There was even a story that said that that Bayern Munich fans had made a petition to the executives of the club to keep Thomas Tuchel, and tens of thousands of Bayern Munich fans had signed this petition asking them to keep Thomas Tuchel. But apparently Thomas Tuchel is 100% leaving Bayern Munich, and it looks like Ralf Rangnick is on the brink of being announced as the new Bayern Munich manager. This has just been confirmed by Fabrizio Romano. Now, why are we bringing this up? Because it means that Thomas Tuchel will be available in the summer. It means that Manchester United wouldn't have to pay any type of money to Bayern Munich because he'd be available for nothing. And does this mean that the writing is on the wall for Thomas Tuchel to come to Manchester United? I don't know. I think these last 5 games are incredibly important. If Erik ten Hag was to maybe win, if we go and beat Crystal Palace on Monday, we then go and beat Newcastle and Arsenal at home, and then we win the FA Cup, I don't see how they could sack him. But in reality, looking at how we've been over the last kind of month or so, and looking at our injury crisis and all the rest of it, we could easily not pick up any points in any of those games. We might lose to Crystal Palace, draw with Newcastle, lose to Arsenal, and then lose to Brighton on the last game of the season. Like, that's completely believable when you consider in the last few games we've struggled against Burnley, we struggled against Bournemouth, like we have struggled. But let me know what you guys think. Is the writing on the wall for Erik ten Hag, or do you think he will be the manager next season? I'm going to wrap the video up here, guys. I will be back at 6 p.m. today. I'll tell you what, I'm going to do a live video today. So yeah, 6 p.m. I'll do a live video. I hope everyone has a great day. If you have enjoyed today's show, please like, comment, subscribe, and I'll speak to you all later.